Hey, it's Dennis Gray. Yeah, that time again, show number 61 of the Australian Rock Show. It's Thursday, the 8th of September 2016, and you can hear from my voice, I've been fighting a cold the last couple of days, but I'm going to persevere nonetheless. And we've got a pretty cool show lined up for you guys. Tyrone Coates, former frontman for late 80s, early 90s outfit The Bombers, has a new album out and about called Child and the Man, and it's really, really good. This guy has one of the biggest voices in rock I've ever heard, and if you have ever seen him live, either with The Bombers or back in his local Perth days with an outfit called Flash Harry, you'll know what a dynamic frontman he is, a guy who should have taken the rock world and then some. Let's kick off this show with a track from Ty called God's Wasteland, and then we'll hear an interview we did with him a couple of days back immediately after. Let's go.
Tyrone, nice to chat with you again. How are you?
Yeah, well, Dennis, good to hear your voice again. It's been a while.
Yeah, you too, mate. You've had a lot of changes going on since we chatted with you back in February of last year. Most obviously, you left your home in the UK and are now a New South Wales Central Coast resident. Guess you better help me fill in the blanks.
Look, we'd been away. We'd probably been overseas for about 12 years, and we just figured that, we're losing a lot of time with family, etc., so we really needed to relocate back to Australia. And I was with a company doing music pretty much on a part-time basis, as you probably remember, and I was with a company over there, and they offered me a return position back to Australia, so I went ahead and accepted that, so I came back. But when we got back here, we just decided that we wanted to pursue our other dreams and goals of setting up a little music school and also doing music again full time, which is what we did. So we've been in the saddle probably about a year, I guess. And, it's humble beginnings with the music school. We've got a few students, and it's very exciting though, but more exciting than ever, we're out doing live gigs again around New South Wales, and also just had the album come out. So it's a bit of a life-changing event, but it's great. We're just loving it.
Is there somewhat of a live scene on the Central Coast? I guess you can also gig in Sydney and to some parts of northern New South Wales as well.
Look, we did some research before we came back, because it had been a while since I've been in the industry here, and all the indications were pointing to the fact that Sydney was slowing down a little bit as far as live work went, and that's kind of proved to be true since we've been back. But it's very much alive and well on the Central Coast and in the Hunter region and Newcastle. I mean, rock and roll is still, pulling in crowds, and there's still a lot of bands that are active around here. So that's really pleasing to see.
Can you tell me a bit more about, is it Living the Dream, your music school?
Living the Dream Music Academy, yeah, it is actually, and that's the name of our music company. So basically we're offering tuition for singing, guitar and drums, and we've got 2 little studios set up at the back of our house. So as I said, humble beginnings, and we really haven't put a lot of promotion into it simply because we've been getting up and running our live music thing. But over the next 12 months or so, we're going to be introducing some pretty exciting projects and just putting a little bit more emphasis on that.
Nice. And your old outfit, Flash Harry, had a reunion, correct? Good fun?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, that was great. The guys over there put it all together, and I went over for that and caught up with some family at the same time. But yeah, it was great. The guys are just absolutely professional players, and we sort of got the set together and went into rehearsal. And after 30-odd years, it was just like yesterday. The guys had done their homework, and it just came together really well. And the gig just, went off with a bang, and everybody was, on their game, and the road crew, the old faces from the road crew were even there as well. So it was just a massive catch-up.
Nice to be able to do that. And look, I've got a hold of your new album, Child and the Man, 12 tracks. There's a good mix of songs on there, isn't there? Some straight down the line rockers like Rolling Stone, which sit next to softer tunes. There's one called Spirit of Erin, which I think has some tin whistle in there, correct?
Yeah, look, it does. Just before my mother passed, my mother was Irish, and before she passed, she always made me promise to go and see Ireland. So before we left the UK, we decided to do that. So we went to Dublin and Galway and went right down to Blarney and drove around the country, and it's just an absolutely beautiful country. And funnily enough, when we were pulling up on to the jetty on the ferry, just all these lyrics came to me. So basically I wrote the song right there and then, and came back and recorded. I didn't have a chance until we got back to Oz, but it's very much a Celtic vibe, and yeah, it's just, I guess, one of those. The album's got some songs on it that are kind of extremes. There's a Celtic, there's rock, there's acoustic. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, really.
So is any of this material stuff which you've written quite recently, or the bulk of it you've had up your sleeve for some time?
Yeah, but about 50-50. There's some of the stuff that, I wrote a few years ago with some of the guys that just really never saw light of day, and they were just good songs. And I thought, it'd be really nice to sort of revamp them and do them again. And then there's some brand new stuff on there as well. And we did an acoustic version of an old Bombers single, "World's on Fire." And I'd always heard mandolin in that song, and JB did as well, John Brewster did as well. So we figured, I might just sort of redo that. And we did a little version of that when we were in the UK and did a little clip with it. So yeah, people kind of like the contrast.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. It is nice to see you bring that back to life on this album, and it is such a great song, which should have made quite an impact on commercial radio back in the day. But I won't go into that in my thoughts right now. But look, we just aired, before you came on, we aired God's Wasteland, which I really, really like. It has some searing slide guitar on there, courtesy of Christina Crofts too. Was that one kicking around in the Bombers days?
Yeah, look, it was. As you probably know, Dennis, we just recently lost Steve Crofts. He'd been struggling with dementia for a long time, and he finally passed, and it was very sad, although probably, some would say it was a blessing. But him and I wrote that song years ago, and it just sat around doing nothing for all these years, and I thought it would be really fitting to have Christina come and play slide on, take a little bit of a leaf out of Steve's book, but also give it her own flavour as well. And so it was great. It's a kind of a tribute to Steve, and, it was just nice to have her on there, so it kind of all fell into place really well.
He left us with some amazing recordings, and for many of us, wonderful memories of seeing him play live, I think. And I guess, incidentally, if listeners really want to get their ears around some of Steve's work, may I suggest they hunt down an album about 10 years old now, I guess, called Unboogie by Croftstown, featuring Steve and Christina. From memory, Peter Heckenberg is on drums on that album, which really is a wonderful collection of songs highlighting some of Steve's talent. May I add, while we're talking about Steve, that I think his battered old Strat sound suited the Bombers so well, even on the familiar Status Quo covers and tracks like The Angels, City Out of Control. Would you agree? Oh,
look, absolutely. Absolutely. Those old guitars Christina uses fairly frequently, and, it's just great to sort of, hear that sound again. And she actually played Steve's guitar on the records. There's another track on there called Heaven Calls, which I wrote with him as well, and she played slide on that as well. And, both the old green Strat, which he had strung up to, almost like fencing wire strings on it. They were so heavy, but it just sounds great.
Do you remember when he first showed up for his first rehearsal with the Bombers?
Look, I do vaguely. I more remember our first gig with Steve, and he came in and he was just like this, really bubbly, upbeat, and he always was like that, just really excitable guy, and he was just so happy to be playing guitar, and he just, as soon as he hit that go switch when there was 1, 2, 3, 4 and the band's in, he just, came into his own. He was just an amazing player and an amazing performer. And he was like that in the rehearsal room, on stage, in the studio, wherever he played, he was what you saw live. That's how he put stuff down on record as well.
Look, just focusing on the Bombers, and you and I could just talk about the Bombers all night. But do you ever sit back and listen to something or watch a video and think, "Wow, we had some firepower in that band, didn't we?"
Oh, look, absolutely, we did. And it's funny because I just recently spoke to John and Alan, and I haven't spoken to John for quite a long time, and he was actually on a plane heading to Melbourne, and he couldn't talk for long because he had to turn his phone off, but we plan on catching up again very soon. But, look, I do, and just thinking about the songwriting chemistry we had, I mean, it was all like, it was only, we were together for a few weeks and we started writing some songs, John and Alan, myself, and it just went bang, and it was just a magical thing, and it's just had such an impact on my life working with those guys because, Alan in particular taught me a lot about life, and, I used to drive him crazy with questions about, why are you miking your amp up that way? Why are you using those strings? And but I learned a lot from those guys. It was just such a big learning curve for me, and I'll forever be appreciative, I guess.
Personally, I still have to pinch myself that in those early days I could walk in and see the Status Quo engine room, and Angel, yourself, of course, with that massive voice and stage presence, all for a few bucks. Wonderful, wonderful memories of mine. So this album, it's called Child in the Man. I really hope lots of people get to hear it. If people want to get a hold of the album, and I know a few old Bombers fans who will, also maybe go and see you live, where should they head to?
If they want to they can come and see us just in a check on Facebook. We've got several different entities, either The Way or Smoke and Rosie or The Creedence Show, which we've got sort of out doing live gigs, and they can pick a copy up there, or they can go to our website, livingthedreammusic.com, and they can organise a copy through there.
Nice. Look, what's your take on Facebook and social media and rock and roll in general? It seems to have forced its way into being the place to get your product out there.
Look, I think it's great. I think, anything used in the right way is always going to be great. I mean, people abuse it, of course, but I think something like Facebook and some of the other social media sites is just awesome for reaching masses of people quickly. Before that, you had to rely on getting videos out, and there just wasn't that kind of coverage. But now with the internet and things like Facebook, it's just amazing. So I love it. I think it's great. I'm a real advocate for it.
Mate, we are going to end our chat by cranking another track from your album, which I really, really like, called Fallen Angels. Why don't you intro that for us with some background info before we hear that?
Well, actually, funny, it's an interesting song, that one, because not long before I finished my job with the company in the UK, one of my managers tried to do a bit of a takeover, like a coup, and he stole some of my instructors and misled a lot of the students, and it was a bit of a bad time for us, actually, and especially for the people that were involved. And so I came back and I wrote that song. So it's basically about fallen angels, and one of these days your actions are going to come back to bite you. So that's really what the song's about. Thanks for chatting today, Ty. Keep doing what you do, because many of us enjoy it. Thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it, Dennis. All the best.